So inventory is supposed to protect service levels, not drain profitability. And slow moving inventory is going to reveal whether your stocking strategy is driven by data, or just by fear of not having parts. And so it separates, disciplined operators from reactive buyers. So here we have the data set here, and pretty basic data set, just inventory. And so, but the columns we need are just the month end date. If you have a date column that's not the end of the month, just use the EO month function. But if you're working from this data set, then there's a link to download it if you want to follow along. And then we're going to need the part category. And then we need the cost. And then we need the on-hand value, which is going to be, inventory here versus the cost. And then finally, we're going to need the last time something was sold. And then we can calculate everything. So again, month end, we're going to be doing this slice by part category. And then essentially we need the on-hand value. And also the last time something was issued, something was sold. And then these two columns are the ones we're gonna calculate. And so the first thing we need to know was, is it slow moving? Meaning you can pick the dates. I'm going to use 90 days. And in the 90-day window, if it's greater than 90 days, then yes, otherwise no. Meaning the last time it was sold minus the inventory date. It'd be the other way. This minus the last issue date. And if that's greater than 90, then yes, otherwise no. And that's what this is showing here. And so essentially, I'll read you the formula, but it's going to equals if this minus this is greater than 90, then yes, otherwise no. And you can see that we have this and it matches this. And then the next thing is just, what is the value? If it's yes here, what is the value here? And that's pretty straightforward. So equals if this equals yes, comma, just give me that cell. Otherwise, just give me a blank. You can do 0, you can do, whatever you want. And now you can see you have this here. Because what we're going to do is we're going to sum this based off of the month and then divide it off this, based off the month, right? So the sum of the slow moving part value divided by the sum of the overall value. Okay, so we already have these columns, so I'm going to delete it because it's the same exact columns here. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is we need to get a unique list of the date values. So essentially remove all of the duplicate values. So we just want 131, there once. And that's what we have here. So let me format this as a date, and we'll just call it date. And I'm going to copy this and then press Control-Shift-V to remove the formulas. Okay, so the next thing we want is we want a unique list of the part category, because we're going to do this heat map by the parts, right? So it's in a table. That's the name of the table on the other sheet, and then parts category. And now we have a unique list. That's the benefit of a table, is like now it's the formula sort of makes sense, right? If it's, equal, unique, AA, it's like that you don't really know what that is, right? But here we have unique, the table for slow moving parts, and then the part category. And then let's sort this A to Z. So with the sort function, we can do that. And then we want to put this across the row, right? We don't want it to be in a column. So instead of, having to drag things over, we can use the transpose function. And now we have that over here. Okay, I'm going to copy this and then press Control-Shift-V to paste. You don't have to do that. I just do it. I don't like having the formulas in there. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is we want to sum for blower parts and January 31st. We want to sum this column, right? That's going to be the numerator of the ratio, of the fraction. And then the denominator is the sum of the on-hand value. And again, since it's in a table, we don't actually have to go back and forth. So we want to sum if, so sum if S. And then the column we want to sum, which is the first argument, is going to be the slow moving value column, comma. And then for the table here, The next thing is going to be either the parts category or the date. You can choose. The sequencing of this doesn't matter. You just have to make sure the first argument is the value for the slow moving parts. And then, yeah, again, it doesn't matter. I'll do month. And that's going to be cell B3, comma. And then the final argument here is going to be the parts category, comma. And then it's cell C2. Okay, so we have that. So that's the top part. Now on the bottom, we want the total value, right? Not if it's slow moving or not, because we want the ratio. And so just the on-hand value. And the benefit of using a table like this is that we can just highlight this, copy it, and then divide by the same thing. But now instead of slow moving value, we want the on-hand value. Like I'm just going to type in value because I know the on-hand value is here. And now it gives you the percent. So for blower parts, January, 3.3% was slow moving of the value. Okay, so now we want to move this over and down, but the problem is we need to fix the referencing, meaning right now it's relative referencing. So this should be blower parts, right? But you can see it's dragging down as we drag it down. And then the same thing here, you can sort of see the blue here where the month is, but if we drag this over, now it's right here. So we need to fix that. And the way we do that is you need to use dollar signs to lock things. So anywhere you want to lock the column, meaning as you drag it over, it doesn't change, then you need to put a dollar sign before the column, meaning before the letter. Letters are columns in Excel, right? You wouldn't say row B, you would say row 3. Or you wouldn't say column 3, you would say column B. And then anywhere you see the row that you want to lock, put the dollar sign before the row, after the column, so in between. And you can also press F4. You can cycle through these with F4. Okay, and so now we still can't drag it because of the table, meaning this is changing. You can see here it's month end date when it should be slow moving value, but you can copy. Copy and paste, and then you have everything you need. The final thing we want to do, well, not final, but final on the calculation side, is let's add an overall. So in other words, this is going to say what for blower parts in the data set, not by year. You can also break it out by year because this is 2 years of data. And then this is overall by month. So all we have to do is we can take this, we can paste it. You're going to get an error because you can see it's looking for the date of overall. But all you have to do is, because we're looking for blower parts, we don't care about the month. So anywhere you see the month, just strip that part out. Let's see. So we're good there. And then here, make sure there's not two. You see how there's 2 commas? Make sure there's just 1. And then again, copy, paste that over. And then overall here, same thing. It's just now we're going to strip out the category, the part category. So you can just take this out here, and then you can take this out here. And then you can double click that down. And then if you wanted an overall just of all your inventory, you could sum the table. So sum the slow moving value. This is actually the easiest formula. Close that, and then divided by the sum of the, I'll type in value again, of the on-hand value. And now you have that percentage. Okay, so the last thing we're going to do is we want a target cell. Let's just say 25%. And so I'm going to highlight everything. Hold down Control and then highlight that. And then go to Home, Conditional Formatting, highlight cells greater than, and then click that cell. And now you can see, right? This shows you all of your slow moving parts. So compressors, control boards, motors, moving slow. And so, and also they're your most expensive things as well, right? So that's just telling you, you're keeping a lot of inventory for these, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. This is just to give you the insight, and then you can make the decision off of this. We're just the data analyst, you're the expert with what to do with this information. And then one last thing, if you're sharing this, with your team, you might want to have, something that they know, like, target, 25% or something, but that's going to break everything. And the reason is because this is being stored as text. And so we want to store this as a value. So I'll just type in 25, press Control 1, and then go to custom, and then here, and then target. you can do target, threshold, benchmark, whatever word you want, colon, space, quotations, and now you can see it's being stored as a numerical value, but it has the word target in there. But anyways, that's all I got for this one. If you have any questions, as always, just shoot me an email, questions@databoards. If you want this data set, there's a link to download it. If you can't find it, shoot me an email. Just say, hey, Brian, can you shoot me the file for, slow moving inventory? And then finally, if you need some help restructuring your data or getting the insights, into your data, you can, again, link to my calendar in the description or in the book, or you can just shoot me an email here, whatever's easiest. But anyways, that's all I got for this one, and I'll see you in future lessons.